Hi, welcome to A Word with Kelly Scott Reed. I'm Kelly Scott Reed, and we're here with CJ Goodin. Hi, CJ.
How you doing today?
I'm great. Great to have you. So happy. We've been trying to make this happen for a while, and we're finally here. This is really awesome. Thank you for joining us.
I'm excited to be
So,
here.
where are you coming to us from?
I am in South Florida. I live in West Palm Beach. My wife and two little girls. Wife's taking them out of the house, so we don't have to hear about that while we talk. Because they will come in and introduce themselves if they were
You know what? I wouldn't mind at all. Our dogs do that.
here. Yeah,
Our
mine might
dogs
come
will
around
come.
in a bit.
Well, welcome. So you're coming from South Florida, and,
Yep.
and you're an author.
hmm
What is your genre? What is it that you write?
yeah, I write predominantly science fiction and horror. I usually stick to short stories, and I have a novel which I'm querying right now. But usually I stick to more the darker end of things. Um, I love all genres, I love reading and enjoying all genres, but really my strengths are really coming into either the dark vastness of space or some nightmare fuel dream type of thing.
So I was doing my little research on you, and I noticed is it Charon, the
uh,
ferryman,
uh, yes,
Chiron or
Karen. Yep,
Charon?
Karen the ferryman. Yeah, the Greek minor deity that ferried people across the Styx and things like that. I'm a big fan of the mythical creature and character and stuff.
You do the drawings for that?
I do. Yeah, and I've incorporated actually. It's taken a little bit of a hiatus just because I'm currently about to push out a book and everything, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to get more into that. Probably going forward after I published. But also I'm incorporating some more of that art style that'll actually be in the printed version of my forthcoming book as well. So that'll
Oh,
be
that's
really fun.
incredible. So, um, for your novel, first of all, when does it coming out? Can we expect it?
This fall. It'll be coming out this fall. I've got a few technical things I'm working on my end, but an announcement date will definitely be mentioned very soon. That'll be coming out with, and it'll be actually be in an anthology of horror short stories that are set in a fictional split, a version of New England, where small little black books have gotten loose. And if you were to read from the little black books, you'll go insane. Um, it's just a lot of like tiny little thoughts and stories that I had that none of which could ever truly be brought into a novel. But I kind of want to share them anyways because I thought they're really neat stories. So I kind of compiled them all together. So that's kind of where I'm going with that right now.
I love the short story format for myself, just because, we all live in the modern world where we have 5 minutes to ourselves.
Yeah.
So I tend to be able to digest them and really enjoy them a lot. I love short stories and anthologies like that. I'm looking forward to that. That's exciting because horror is my jam. That's my
Mhm.
favorite. So,
Mhm.
so I really am excited about that. And it sounds very cool. I listened to a whole series on the Salem witch trials fairly recently. So
Yep.
be having it set in New England, it's just such a creepy vibe
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
whole area, I
I,
guess.
it's also the collection will include a lot of the things which are certainly obviously personal to me, where because I was actually raised in New England. That's where I've spent the vast majority of my life, was in the deep heart of real New England. I grew up literally in a early turn of the century home, stuck on an abandoned, but a former tree plantation set in the middle of New Hampshire. So
Oh,
I
wow.
literally lived in an actual haunted house, whereas other people visited them. I grew up with it. So I, going to the Salem for Halloween and things like that, that was a very regular thing for me. I grew up on like the cold, dark shore. So the world that Edgar Allan Poe, Lovecraft, Stephen King write about was literally my backyard. So,
Oh, wow, that's so cool. You've got to have a ton of ghost stories. So we'll have to do a part two of this where you just tell us all your ghost stories. Because I have them
perfect.
too. I grew up in pretty creepy old homes
Oh
and
yeah.
owned a lot of creepy old houses. So we're in Western New York,
Mhm.
in the Finger Lakes region.
Oh
So
nice.
similar, dark,
Yep.
gloomy, wintry falls, and
Especially when winter comes around. It's a
yes,
very different beast.
it
Very.
really is. So when did you first realize, or could you describe a time when you realized that language had power for you?
Probably my most my first immediate sense of its power, plus also my first real interest in writing, probably came with fifth grade when I actually had first moved to I guess what I would consider my hometown of Goffstown in New Hampshire, and we had a creative writing assignment where I don't remember exactly what the point of it really was, but basically they give you some sort of an adage or whatever, something along the lines of like, name something that you can do, but a friend can't do, or something to that effect. And I wrote this little short story about a friend of a dragon and a donkey, or what, I don't know, I was in fifth grade. I don't know what I was doing. And and then they're playing around, they're like comparing each other, like I got four legs, I got four legs, and then they like do a little kitty adventure things. And then at the end, the dragon goes like, see, look, I can jump off this ledge and I can fly. And the donkey's like, I can try that. And then he just falls off and plummets down to his doom. And I read that off in front of my entire class. And at the time, I guess I didn't fully understand the social consequences of doing that. So when the entire class, including the teacher, just kind of looked at me, I was like, I was like, oh, there might actually be something to this. I mean, it wasn't the effect that I was hoping it would give, but to actually realize that when you say things, that does it bring, a strength with it if you're trying to convey what you're actually trying to get across. That was probably the first time it really hit me. Plus also kind of cemented me as like, I want to write. That's what
Okay, so that was like the moment where you were like, oh, this had an effect. There was a reaction. So this is something I can do. Oh, that's so cool. Kind of sometimes it comes differently for people. Like they'll realize language has power, but then they'll move on, and it doesn't really solidify till later.
Yeah.
So you were quite young when that happened.
Yeah, it wasn't as positive as I was hoping. And I hope for all other people it's a much more positive light than mine. But that was really the first time that I realized, like, oh, I can, with just using words, you can really steer a conversation or steer what the the viewer, whoever the reader is, or however it's being sent to them, the story will really kind of dictate how people are feeling about things. So what I really got from that. So it was eye-opening experience.
Yeah, and when you were young, did you have any like literary heroes or anyone that you read often that kind of steered you into the direction that you're in?
Yes, but it's funny because it's not as really a specific author, although he has written books. But LeVar Burton actually was a major. I hit the absolute perfect crossroads, which I don't know if we'll ever have again, because I had Reading Rainbow in its prime and Book It at the same time, just colliding with each other. It was amazing. I read every book I could get my hands on because I got free pizza. I got to watch Reading Rainbow. And LeVar Burton was always a big fan of me because I love science fiction majorly, partially because of Star Trek. My parents had grown up watching the original Star Trek, and there was this Black guy who was very intelligent, who had visual impairment, who also happened to be born in Landstuhl, Germany, just like myself. And yet he was there in depth in science fiction and everything. I'm like, that is awesome. And then sometimes he reads stories to me over on this other channel. Yeah. Like this. Like this guy
is awesome.
Like this guy's like an absolute like hero for me. This guy's awesome. So I mean, even though he didn't, or at least I certainly not in the early 90s, he didn't have any books I was reading. But that kind of an impact, got me to whenever he said, like, I got this book. I'm like, I'll read that book. Like, I'll go read it too. So I kind of followed that up until high school. And that's when I discovered a book in our high school library called The Gunslinger, written by Stephen King. And then that set me off reading the entire Dark Tower series. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. I don't care what anybody else thinks about it. This is amazing.
But isn't that part of like the beauty of authors that you love? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If they speak directly to you, that's it. I think all of us in this group, I know Marianne as well, we're Stephen King. That was our intro to real adult literature. I think I read some teen stuff in the day, but I always tell the story how I used to sneak into the adult section of the library when I was like 10 or 11 and just sneak out Stephen King books and say I'm getting them for my parents like it was cigarettes. This is for my mom. She really loves Stephen King. Like I was something, I had to hide it or something, but that's amazing.
Perfectly casually walking out with Kellie at 7 years old or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. So you've been everywhere. So Germany, you were born.
Yes. Born
That's
and launched
amazing.
in Germany.
Did you live there for quite a while?
No. My parents were stationed there at the time.
Okay.
And then I was 3, so not a lot of memories from the Deutschland. And then I moved into New England, where I had spent most of my growing up life ever. And then after New England, I've lived in a number of places: Las Vegas, Virginia, Maryland, Florida, obviously where I am now, raising my family, my own girls and everything. So I've gotten kind of a good, healthy relationship with many different parts of the nations, and kind of get a grasp of like what different areas are into or interested in, and all of that has been, even on a small level, it's back in my own writing and everything. Like that my experiences being in the deserts of Las Vegas and how did that affect me. I kind of push that into more of my writing elsewhere.
Now, do you think that ego helps or hurts writers? Like, how do I say it? I self-efface a lot. Like I always apologize for the work before I hand the work to somebody. I don't know if this is really great, but please be kind to me. Do you think ego helps or hurts writers?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think there is a certain measure of ego that I think is essential to the craft. Because just like any other kind of art, it's honestly as good as your confidence is in a lot of cases, from the marketing end of things. That like you may be like every book that you come out with is the next great American novel, but if every single time you have to hand it to somebody like trying to hand it over, the expectation from the reader is already going to be like, oh guys, need a brace for this, going into it. So I think that I think that there has to be a certain measure of ego in terms of you have to know yourself, I guess, in that measure of ego. If you know who you are, what you actually bring to the table, it's a lot easier to hand over what it is that you've created on the back end. So yeah, I think it's important, but I also think you need to, keep it in check.
Yeah.
Because you probably didn't write the next American novel. Maybe lots of people love it. You probably do great in sales, but damper it a little
bit. Exactly. Now, is there anything that you're reading right now that you're reading, not just you're writing, but like that you have that's a new thing that you're excited about? A new author book?
Let's see here. I'm doing a lot of beta reading at the moment. So, and I'm loving the ideas that I have from a very small, close circle of friends who are also writers and everything. And they, what they're always showing me is like blowing me out of the water. But a lot for right now, in terms of things that are published, coming out, I've been circulating through a lot of much older work to kind of certainly influence me on my own writing going forward. I guess probably of newly published new books. What is it called? The Rising Red. I've heard that series, science fiction series, come out. It's pretty good. The first book, it has a lot of like Hunger Games type vibes, split multi-class individuals and everything, and the people at the bottom getting sick and tired of where they are, trying to work their way up, trying to put it again. And that's been actually a very good, comfortable reading. But like I said, I've been trying to also go through a lot of my older readings. Pulled this one out just because it's a big fan of mine. Metropolis. I don't know if you ever saw the old black and white movie.
Absolutely.
Big influence for me, especially for my science fiction writing. I'm a big fan of that. But that movie was based on the book that the movie writer's wife actually wrote. And I'm actually, for the first time ever, I'm actually reading through that, trying to gain a lot of that influence as well.
Wow, that's a lot, because when the Metropolis was like required watching when I was in high school.
Yep.
Like we had to go through all the canon of weird, is what I call it. Like Metropolis, we had to do Clockwork Orange, the whole, ooh, we understood none of it. Let's just be
Yep.
honest. I had no idea what I was watching, but I thought I was cool. But
Yep.
now you're reading it, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe I'll understand it if I read it. That's incredible. So, do you have any writing kryptonite, like anything that hinders you in your process?
Ooh, I'm an individual where I need an absolute cone of silence to write. I probably have some undiagnosed mental illness of some form where I just cannot focus. But it's like if I have anybody, if there's a dog in the room, I can't write. With one of my kids, like, Daddy, I want to eat. I'm like, you ate yesterday. Just back away. I need to write. I need to focus right now. Like I have to turn off Twitter. Like if I'm posting on Twitter at all, that means I'm not doing anything. I'm just farting around on the internet. That's probably my biggest, most immediate thing. I don't too often run into writer's block, but I feel like that's kind of the advantage of short stories is that I knock out 1,500, maybe 2,000 words or whatever on like a first draft, and I don't have to go any further than that. I can tell my little snippet of a story as it is. So I don't run into too many, I guess, technical or methodical kryptonites in that sense, other than I just cannot focus. Like my brain will just shift at any moment and I'll want to go do something else.
Yeah. Oh no, I feel I have a real hard time when I'm required to write. I'm fine if it's all left to my own devices. Oh, I feel like writing, but if someone says this has to be done by Wednesday, I have a real hard time. Deadlines, any deadline, anything is kind of rough.
I think
I
that's
work
part of the
well
job,
in them,
right?
but it kind of makes me, I think it might be oppositional defiance disorder that I must be struggling with. The minute someone puts something, I'm like, nope, I can't do it.
I absolutely hate pressure, but that's when I perform my best, is when I just have an ungodly amount of pressure that no human being should ever actually have to go through. And then I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Whatever. I got 48 hours for that edit. You got it. Like, I'll just start flipping.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. Now, do you write like, or when you're with your kids, are you a storyteller? Do you like to sit with them and tell them stories before they go to bed? Is it something that you incorporate into your whole family?
The storytelling element definitely is certainly part of it. I don't do many sitting down and tell them by candlelight, although the idea of that is great. Every night we go over, we read books, and my girls absolutely love it. We either cuddle up on the couch or sit on their bed or whatever. We read through a nice picture book. They're 5 and 6, so like we're trying to get through the Silmarillion. It's just they're just not sticking with it, and I think they have a problem. It's their fault. And but no, we have our picture books and things like that. We have a lot of fun. One of the things that my girls have taken to do, because I'm a big Minecraft fan. I'm just a Minecraft nerd, and I end up doing the same thing every time. I end up just create a farm and then just live this like little like hunky-dory lifestyle on the edge of a cliff or some bachelor or whatever. But I really like Minecraft, and my girls have taken that as well. So they'll take out their little tablets and record themselves playing Minecraft while voicing out the parts of the characters as they walk around. So they're effectively playing virtual dolls, but in a storytelling way while recording it on their tablets, which is adorable to hear about. And then they hand it to me, and the editing is terrible. It's 15 minutes of dialogue. You hear a lot of like the background stuff, just voice acting. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. But it's a beautiful thing to watch them. Like they create these worlds where they're literally building worlds. I mean, I'm writing it down on paper when I do my world building. I have notebooks galore of world building, but they're actually physically building it digitally, physically making it in this world, creating this like house or castle or whatever, and then having the characters go around and actually acting out their own stories that they've created. So I think the storytelling part is like very ingrained in who they are, which I'm absolutely in love with.
That's awesome. And do you have any favorite children's books? Is there one that you love? Like I had ones that were my children that we would read that I enjoyed reading. I would like, oh no, let's not read that one. Let's read this one.
Thing, you know, I was one of those kids that no one really liked because I was like I liked reading The Hobbit. People are like, no one likes reading a Hobbit at 8. Especially within the writing world, I found that many other people do. But within the writing world, that might be common. Outside of the writing world, that is very, very small. And then a lot of people end up being like, no, you didn't. And like other people are like, I read the Polar Express. Like that doesn't even have any words. I've always kind of been steeped in not necessarily adults, but certainly like older, like because in the 90s and stuff, that there really wasn't the YA world that we have today. I grew up with like R.L. Stine, and I really liked Goosebumps and everything, but it had all the artifices of horror. It had all like the elements and everything, but it never really quite like drove it home. Like this is meant for little kids. Like I get that now as an adult, but like as a kid, I'm like waiting for like the doll to like do something, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna pop up and say boo. Like like you've got 3 extra characters. One of those can go. Like you don't need to.
Exactly.
Like don't walk me to the cliff. Just take that one step off. That's all you gotta do. Just that one last step off. But then again, my Donkey Dragon story didn't do so hot with focus groups either. So what do I know?
That is hysterical. Oh my gosh. Well, for my children, I did a lot of like, what is his name? Oh my gosh. In the Night Kitchen. What is his name? Marianne, help me. Who wrote In the Night Kitchen? Well, it was like a little naked baby, a little naked boy driving in and out of dough and all this. I think it was a banned book at one time. Also, I had a book. I'm not functioning on any steam today. I apologize. I'm looking at the book in my head and I can't remember it. But there was a lot of different books that had kind of even though they were children's books, there was a bit of subversiveness, a bit of darkness that I really used to like. Oh, I Am Not Afraid of Anything. It was a Maya Angelou poem that was illustrated by, oh my goodness, he does the crowns. He passed away. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. But it was really cool because the drawings and the illustrations were so dark and so terrifying. But the words were Maya Angelou, and I thought it was the coolest book. And I used to make my son read it all the time, and then I wonder what happens. Like, this is a great book, Kevin. Don't be anxious. What's wrong with you? Why do you have anxiety? I'm reading you horrible things. Oh my goodness, that is so cool. Well, I won't keep you much longer. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. You have been such a pleasure to talk to. So fun. I can't wait to pick up your book. Do you have like a website you want to plug? Anything else that you want to talk about for yourself?
Honestly, I would say mostly just follow me on Twitter at the moment. That's kind of where I'm curtailing there. With the launch of my book, I'm hoping to branch out to a lot of different things. I have a lot of ideas that I'm rolling with right now, both of video creation. I want to do some more stuff with Minecraft to kind of expand the world that I'm creating of Tibbetts Hill and everything. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter at Chris J. Goodin. And from there, I have links to many other things that I'm actually going to be building off of and growing from there. But that's the main place to find me is on Twitter. That's where I'll be the most.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning. It has been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine.
Stay for a second.
Okay.